What's the CIA? And don't lie to me about it, woman. Oh, it just shut down.
Bing, I, and Geo.
It just shut down, actually.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's the first time that's happened.
It's not the last. Stafford,
Okay.
keep tape rolling, please.
Tapes rolling.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Recorded Saturday, September 23rd, 2017. It's the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. On episode 90, the What and the Why is sponsored by Motive Wave. Go to pathtradingpartners.com and download your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with a casual conversation of news and the markets.
Well, we have a follow-up relating to mobile stuff. So rumors out, and late this week that we talked about this before, or we talked about this a few months ago, but now it's getting closer. T-Mobile and Sprint are said to be close to merger terms, with T-Mobile would sort of be in charge, though. So we're still watching that on T-Mobile Watch.
Is that because one of them owns the old 3G network to go along with the LTE network?
T-Mobile has some good coverage now. I use T-Mobile, and I switched. I've gone through all of them now, and I'm happiest with T-Mobile.
Is it Verizon or T-Mobile that has this new spectrum that the iPhone doesn't connect to?
T-Mobile.
Okay.
T-Mobile got that whole spectrum bid for the 5. What are we on? We're on version 4 of connectivity, but the new 5 that's gonna.
Yeah, I think LTE is 4 with boost, multi-channel boost.
They got T-Mobile got a whole bunch of the 600 gigahertz spectrum, which is required for LTE 5. And they've been testing. I saw they were testing stuff in, I think it was Colorado, with Samsung phones on LTE 5 already.
I think it just came to Chicago. I saw some sort of map that was generating coverage, and Chicago was one of the last zones.
So, I mean, LTE 5 we're still a little way off, but that's even stuff way beyond cell phones, because then they're talking, maybe we can actually get true wireless modems. There's already some test modems out there that provide actual good connectivity, more stable.
Well, there's
so you can even put in a home modem with LTE 5.
There's always been this talk about, if the quote grid goes down, then everybody can then create a mesh network across the country and create an ad hoc network. Maybe that can actually come to fruition.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, the new LTE 5 spectrum opens up a lot of possibilities. So, but before that, we'll see if T-Mobile and Sprint actually merge, and then if it's approved by the regulators, because they always have to do that. But I don't know if that's going to go through. Why they shoot that down? Because you have the third and the fourth largest merging, so it's not like the first and the second are merging.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have no opposition for that merger to occur.
But then they get some economy of scale. I mean, already T-Mobile's starting to make huge. They passed Sprint to now they're the third largest, and they've been winning all the network speed tests recently over Verizon and AT&T. So,
well, Sprint just picked up all the old bandwidth. I think. They have all the old 2G that's no longer in use except for Defense Department stuff and government stuff, I guess. I'm not really sure. I'm not quite a Spectrum nerd.
It probably still does, especially. I bet you it'll have some interesting use. I bet you'll be able to pick it up because it's got a lot of penetration, the 2G stuff, and that's where the 5G starts having issues with the amount of penetration through buildings. So I bet you they're going to do something with combining some old spectrum with new spectrum and rapid handoffs to increase the penetration for the LTE-5 stuff.
Right. That means the old spectrum was a lower frequency, so it had wider bandwidth between fluctuations, so it could go through more solid mass than a very high-rate spectrum that has... what is that called, technically? You know, the waveform of the distance. I mean, musically, I can tell you, that sort of stuff, why different waveforms work with other waveforms and create resolution and tension, but,
Well, can I hear a bass or a guitar farther away?
It really, unfortunately, does depend.
That was nerd music corner.
That's right. Yes. Why is a root note and a fifth? Why do they sound good? Because mathematically, those waveforms match up.
Because of GAN levels. That's why we use GAN levels over fib levels, because you get the harmonics.
What are my stops in a Joe Bassamata solo?
Joe Bonamassa doesn't stop out very often.
Right, he stays within the rotation zone.
Oh boy. We've now gone to Nerd Music Central.
Yeah, well, music is very mathematical. It's extremely scientific. There is no feels in music except after the mathematics have been done. How's your rocket doing, man?
I was going to go out, build one of those, rockets that you put the C motors in, the ones you have like the A, B, and C, and what are those?
Yeah, I built a Klingon D7 cruiser. I think it was hanging out with you in those days.
I just remember building those and then putting, you don't need the parachute, you just put in some black powder on top. So
you could go to Charles Variety and buy a solid rocket motor. What happened to those days?
I know. We need those days back. Where you could be a 14-year-old and actually launching stuff into the atmosphere and blowing it up, and you don't get in trouble. And now you're being hunted down, taken to black ops places, and you don't get a lawyer.
Oh gosh, wow, we had it so good back then.
Have you been shorting the VIX in this time while you're gone?
Could I have made money?
It's back down to close the week at 9:59.
No.
We're back that guy's VIX trade. Oh, I wonder when those options expired. They're coming up. Were they Octobers, right?
They were Octobers.
Oh boy, we better get some. I think missiles better start flying, else.
Yeah, I mean, clearly no one believes North Korea is going to do anything. We're getting those reactions now where it's like, same we had with terrorism years ago, where each terrorist attack had less and less of an effect. Same with North Korea. They're talking about dropping an H-bomb in the Pacific Ocean to test it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I don't know. When I see all those B-1s in formation and all those F-22s all in formation doing drills, I feel good. I feel very good.
According to the military-industrial complex, we have the ability to hit a bullet with a bullet. That's how good our technology of shooting down missiles now is.
So if we know that, there are things that we can do that nobody knows.
Yep.
So you say the VIX at 9:59 is justified because there's nothing to worry about?
Needs to be at 7:59.
7:59? Or are we going to get by the low earlier of 884?
That's a sell now. That low.
That's a sell? That's a sell?
If it gets there, it's a sell signal.
A sell signal for the market.
For the VIX. I do believe we're going to new all-time new New time.
New time lows of all time highs.
All new time lows. I literally can't say that wrong, and I want to so badly.
I don't even know what I say wrong. All new time highs. It's all new time highs.
All new time highs is ridiculous.
All new time lows. Are we going to all new time lows?
Going to all new time lows on the VIX.
There we go. All new time lows.
Or is it
you
all
heard
time
it from
new?
We're not going to all time new hereby. I can't even say it right. I can't say it right.
We've broken ourselves.
It's broken.
I'm in a feedback loop.
I like the Saturday morning show.
The Saturday morning show is when we're all still recovering from Friday night. So did anybody have their their big toy meltdown on Friday night?
Their what meltdown?
Big toy meltdown. Toys R Us files Chapter 11, second largest retail bankruptcy in history. I had a couple adult beverages morning Toys R Us last night.
I was watching Bitcoin Cash's death spiral.
Huh? What death spiral?
I read an article. Bitcoin Cash's death spiral was the name of it. This particular person predicts that it's vulnerable to a 51% down move.
A 51%.
Yeah, I don't know why 51.
Well, I don't know either.
It's the popular vote.
Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash currently trading at 423. My only problem with trading these cryptos. Is it's 24/7.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went to bed early last night, but then I woke up at 11:58 at night and never went back to bed because I couldn't sleep. So you can actually, at 3 a.m. on a Friday night, you can watch crypto trades. So that's not good for me.
Or you are in technical analysis heaven.
No, so I was watching Canadian League football on ESPN until 2 a.m. and watching cryptocurrency.
Take off, eh?
How bad is that? That's my Friday night at 2 a.m.
Well, I can't wait to get a Teddy Ruxpin at super clearance.
Yeah, well, Toys R Us, what's their bankruptcy is going to be $6.9 billion, second largest retail bankruptcy after Kmart, which was $14.6 billion. So that's going to, and they were bought out privately and then saddled by $6.6 billion in debt. So they couldn't even make their debt pay. Eventually it got caught up with the debt payments. So that's sort of a big deal because they are the largest toy retailer in the country. There's going into the holiday season, they have 1,600 stores and 64,000 employees. So we're going to have to see what impact that does have. So
more of the Amazon effect.
Yep, more of the Amazon effect.
Well, it's also the Star Wars is broken effect because they keep pumping the channel full of tons and tons of Star Wars product that nobody really wants.
Hold on, I was at Target the other day, all right? And they had 3 aisles dedicated to just Star Wars stuff. I was like, what? Yeah,
they're just pumping the channel full of it. And then they sell it to the store and say, oh, we're making more money.
I couldn't oh my goodness. Oh. Wow, I'm good. I think we're going to be happy with a lot of that video I put out last night for some of these double bottoms in the cryptos.
There's a lot of double bottoms?
Oh, yeah. We had Ethereum pretty much went to target. IOTA pretty much went to target, at least the first and second target. Litecoin hasn't gone to target, but that's the weakest one. And Monero has triggered and not gone to first target yet. But interesting. Everything's tradable with technical analysis.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
and we have to use
a chart.
Huh?
Everything that you can get a chart of.
That's why we just trade technically. Follow up. I don't know if we did this on the podcast because I think it just hit this week, but Tesla hit the double bottom first and second target. I don't talk about the second target. We were mainly just focused on the first one, which is this 380.78. But the second target, which was in the video, was 386.32. And the unreliable target, since it didn't meet our stringent rules, the 391.87 was not hit. And then Tesla, which we said would, that was a low probability target, so we weren't going to look at it. Then Tesla proceeded to drop from 389.61 to 351 in the next few days. So right after target was hit, 1, 2, 3, 4 straight down phase, shaving off what is that? Nearly $40.
Yeah.
That's why we trade with targets.
Right.
Even though I'm not a fan of Tesla stock, buying it, but it hit the targets, and now we shall see. We shall see.
I saw some people talking. They're like, there are all these Model 3s in California appearing. And then someone wrote a comment afterwards saying, it's all the same single Model 3 just driving around every day. So they were asking for, get the VIN number, get the VIN number.
Don't get me started with the Model 3, please. Don't get me started. It's coming. We're going to get to Tesla corners, Tesla stuff this week, but don't get me started yet. Because first we have to talk about Americans place highest ever odds stocks will appreciate. Bullishness concedes with all-time high for the S&P 500. Now, this is University of Michigan data that Americans place a record 65% probability on further stock market gains.
That's the all-time high?
Yeah.
This doesn't seem like much.
Back in 2007, right before the crash, it was at about 62%.
That doesn't seem like a lot to me. I don't know why.
It's just their scale.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's not that investor. There's other surveys like Investor Confidence where they do the bullishness or bearishness of the news, the bloggers and the people who produce newsletters. That I've seen get up to 95 or 96% bullish at times. But this is based off University of Michigan study where they phone sample everybody. So,
is this the all skate theory? When everybody gets in the pool, there's an issue.
Yeah, that's what those bullish and bearishness sentiment indicators generally are. They're contrarian, right? So when they get to all-time high bullish, new time high bullishness, when they get to new time high bullishness, you're supposed to sell. I mean, it's not obviously a one-to-one thing where it's new time high, sell it. That's it. But it's supposed to indicate there's too many people.
Well, and again, I'd wait for a confirmed technical sell signal, but it's like everybody running to one side of the boat then peering over.
Right.
It's is the boat going to tip? So, interesting thing. You want to know what people aren't as bullish on now?
What?
Apple.
JP Morgan is. Doesn't seem like anybody else is.
Well, Apple's now traded down to the bottom of the weekly rotation zone again. So we're going to have to see. Last time it was back here was in mid-June, and then we got the rotation signal up that went to new all-time highs or all new time highs. And now we're back down to the 151 at the bottom of that. So we're going to have to see if that holds. If that level doesn't hold, I'm looking for the next level of 142. But what's this down? Do we have a weak iPhone 8 demand?
Yes.
That's what they're predicting, yeah.
The Osborne effect is in full effect. We talked about this 6 months ago when Apple released a professional iMac that won't be released till 2018. And the Osborne effect is you talk about a product that doesn't exist, so nobody will buy the product that's currently in the channel.
So everybody's waiting for the X.
I mean, anybody who's has Apple derangement syndrome will definitely wait.
So, but I thought I heard from you that the X is going to be in very, very short supply.
Yes, unless you work very diligently to get up at midnight and hit refresh 10,000 times to put in your order.
I might be up at midnight.
I might try it through AT&T.
No, I might just be up, so I then might just hit. If there's Canadian football on, I'll be trying to order an iPhone X and.
Now, is Canadian football the one with the broom and pushing the rock?
No, that's curling.
Can I take a knee in Canadian football?
Not in front of their national anthem, you can't. So people aren't terribly inspired by that. Apple also acknowledged problems with their cellular connectivity in the newest version 3 watch that they're going to have to release a software fix for. How about the drop tests? You were talking about that, Stafford, with the iPhone 8 drop tests.
Yeah.
They're doing that?
Oh yeah, it's been a big thing, ever since iPhone 4, which was the first Apple glass-backed product. And when the iPhone 4 broke on the back, it had a metal shield, right, to protect the internal components. But I was just giving Mike some information on that. And if the back of the iPhone 8, and no doubt the iPhone 10, cracks, when that cracks, it exposes the motherboard and the internal components.
So, Bob, this is for you.
Yep.
You won't be getting an iPhone 8 or X. You need to stick with the old, more ruggedized phones.
Why would they make a phone less durable?
Because you have to, they're charging wirelessly. You can put it on a charge pad, and you can't have an aluminum back because it blocks the charging. So you have to have a glass back on it.
But there's something interesting. The new iPhone 8 and the new iPhone 10 are very, very waterproof. More waterproof than they admit. And that's important because if the phone is not waterproof, then it's difficult to tell the customer it's your fault you got it wet, right? So as long as they can totally lock down it getting wet, they don't care about it breaking because then they can really say, well, you broke it, you dropped it. Kind of disingenuous to not put the same diligence into its durability.
Yeah.
So, well, that's our Apple news on the big sell-off. It already gave the next levels down. If it does, I'm expecting a slight probable pop in the stock, but then we have major resistance coming in about 156. I'm just calling peak Apple with their new spaceship.
The same thing happened to the Sears Tower, right? They built this building, and that was the end.
Yeah, well, it's like when, it's the same thing I see with stadiums. When a company buys the naming rights, you get whatever stadium named after them. It's like 2 years later, they're having problems.
Yeah, remember U.S. Cellular?
Yep. Which was then bought by T-Mobile. But there's a lot of them now. We've seen this. I don't even remember. Enron Field was classic.
Oh my God, yeah.
Enron Field, kaboom. I'm not saying Apple's anything like Enron, but when these companies go out and they do something really grandiose, like to name a stadium or build a spaceship park that looks like it could take off, and it's like, oh, okay, all right. And I'm an Apple fan, but I'm getting really slightly nervous with a lot of these decisions.
They are betting everything on that glucose monitor to tap into the watch band.
My favorite example of that is guaranteed rate. Not that anything's happened to guaranteed rate yet, but they have the absolute best logo for a bad baseball team, which is an arrow pointing down. It's so great. It's like, you can go to guaranteed rate field, and there's a big arrow pointing down like this place sucks.
Are they traded publicly?
Guaranteed rate?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Because I always love these public companies that do the naming rights. It's like, all right, start looking at long-term put spreads.
Let's see. Guaranteed rate stock symbol.
Saying Apple's anything like Enron, but when these companies go out and they do something really grandiose, like to name a stadium or build a spaceship park that looks like it could take off, and it's like, oh, okay. All right, and I'm an Apple fan, but I'm getting really slightly nervous with a lot of these decisions.
They are betting everything on that glucose monitor to tap into the watch band.
My favorite example of that is guaranteed rate. Not that anything's happened to guaranteed rate yet, but they have the absolute best logo for a bad baseball team, which is an arrow pointing down. It's so great. It's like, you can go to guaranteed rate field, and there's a big arrow pointing down like this place sucks.
Are they traded publicly?
Guaranteed rate?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Because I always love these public companies that do the naming rights. It's like, all right, start looking at long-term put spreads.
Let's see. Guaranteed rate stock symbol. Private company.
All right, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
We have some stuff in our food and fashion nook this week.
Do we now?
Albertsons buying the meal kit company Plated.
Plated was good.
You've had Plated?
I've had Plated.
Oh, I've never had it, so I would like some feedback. But they're going to buy it and then start putting their meals in the stores. And we've already alluded to this with Amazon and Whole Foods, and so you can get delivery or pickups at Albertsons stores in the coming months. The cost is $10 to $12 a serving, and the food will essentially be prepped for you. So it's very little effort for you, but it'll all be like fresh and sourced and all that stuff. So how is the Plated food?
Plated food was good. I had Plated for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks or so delivered, and it was actually really good. They did some kind of different stuff. Like, I actually had that feta stuffed lamb burger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's delicious.
There you go. So
there's an opportunity for a low-cost company called Paper Plated. It's just like macaroni, mashed potatoes.
You get hot dogs and mac and cheese and chips.
It's actually really funny.
Paper Plated.
It's $4.
We give you some a can of beans and here's your Paper Plated. That's actually a good one. I like that. Oh, and Bob, you should watch out because this is a recall. Mm-hmm. You've heard of Death Wish coffee, right?
Yes, I have. Delicious also.
The Not Charles Bronson segment.
No, this is the Not Charles Bronson segment. This is they are the world's strongest coffee, but this only targets their 11-ounce Death Wish Nitro cold brew cans of coffee. Have to be recalled because botulism can form in it. So they're having to call all those back. So nothing affects their beans or any other things they do. But if you're drinking their Nitro cold brew cans, 11 ounce, do not drink it. They say throw it out. They'll cut you a check. They have to rejig their production process.
Did I read a headline right that said they actually are admitting it can kill you?
Yes.
Wow.
Because if you get botulism in something, that's not good.
It's not good.
So
there are some words that sound like they can kill you, and botulism is one of them.
Most isms are.
Yeah, it's not like the word daisy, roses. Those don't sound like they can kill you. Botulism sounds like it can kill you. It's just a well-named thing.
So that's in our food.
Cyanide.
What is that?
Cyanide.
Cyanide. Another tie-in with we talked. Oh, this is a loop back. This is sort of like where we have to print, the correction, because we talked about a few weeks ago that the Boston Red Sox were cheating in games using the Apple Watch, but it appears now it wasn't an Apple Watch. It was just a Fitbit.
How did they do it?
That sounds like a native ad for Apple, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, that's like short Fitbit now. Oh, look, I don't think there's any point in shorting Fitbit. It's trading at $6.31. It's up from its low of $4.90.
Gosh, how do you make that mistake from an iPhone to a Fitbit? How does that mistake even happen?
Who knows? But that's just a correction. I was reading that this week, and it's apparently not Apple's smartwatch. They were too cheap to use the Apple smartwatch. They just went with the Fitbit. Maybe that's why they got caught. In other news, Amazon. Amazon's in the news every week, but I don't understand this one. Amazon's working on their smart glasses.
What are smart glasses going to be like?
They're not dumb glasses.
They feature Alexa. Their first wearable device will connect wirelessly to a smartphone, but is designed like a regular pair of spectacles for maximum comfort and without and feature bone conduction technology that users can hear Alexa without needing to insert headphones into their ears. So I guess you can ask your glasses. Oh, before I say that, I'm putting my damn thing on mute because somebody will trigger it. So you can just say like, "Hey Alexa," and you can ask it a question, and your glasses will answer you.
This will work great for dating. You say the person's name, and you can run them down.
You're speed dating, and you have. Oh wait, not you. I'm done. Next. Why don't they just buy? Why doesn't Amazon then buy Snapchat?
Glasses with everybody. Snap made glasses. Google made glasses. Now Apple wants to make glasses.
No, Amazon.
Rather, what's with the fascination with glasses?
I don't know. Snapchat's back down to 1370, so maybe they should look. It went up to its rotation zone on the weekly basis and turned back down below key support. So maybe Amazon should just work on getting some glasses then and buy Snapchat and combine the technologies. Then you'll have, I don't know what you'll have, but you'll have glasses.
Bone conducting technology. I love that.
Bone conducting technology.
So that users can hear Alexa. Here we go, Stafford. So that users can hear Alexa without inserting headphones into their ears. It's going to go right through your bone. That's another thing that sounds like it can kill you. Bone.
Just one shot at 130 dB and it's over.
How does that feel when something's too loud accidentally?
It's like standing next to a 747 turbofan.
Maybe we should ask.
Play the Killers, and it starts up too loud, and you die.
It'll just blow out your eardrums.
Maybe we need to ask Cuba with their sonic weapons.
Cuba has sonic weapons?
Oh yeah.
You haven't been reading about that?
No.
Or maybe they're ours, and we were just testing them.
No, there's actually multiple diplomats from multiple countries now complaining about the same thing from Cuba. So, with sonic weapon targeting, bring. I don't know because you can't hear it, so you can't even bring earplugs, so that won't work.
But when you're in the room, you walk toward where the sonic weapon is being aimed, and you can feel it, and then you can walk away from that part of the room, and you don't feel it. So it's extremely targeted. If it exists.
Well, we'll find out. But if you now buy your Amazon glasses and you don't like it, you can go to Kohl's because Kohl's will now pack and ship Amazon returns for you. Now we've talked about partnership between Amazon and Kohl's before, but in LA and Chicago so far, they're planning for 82 of its stores to offer free return service for Amazon customers. The Kohl's stores will pack and ship eligible Amazon return items for anything you buy from the online retailer for free starting this October.
Isn't that nice of them?
I wonder how much of this partnership's going to keep evolving. If they're
how much does Kohl's make off of pack and ship returns?
I don't know. I guess it gets foot traffic in their stores, though, and they're already starting to display the Amazon devices there. So,
since when has being a post office been a good business model?
Exactly, that's what it is. It's a post office.
Well, speaking of
post office middleman, they have to take the stuff to the post office, basically.
Speaking of things that ship things, FedEx missed on the top and bottom line this week. Did you see that?
I did see that, actually.
They missed on, let's see, expectations of $15.4 billion in revenue. They came in at 15.3, and earnings per share expected $3.14. They came in at $2.51, but they've now traded. They just set new highs this week.
That's interesting too.
So people sort of shrugged that one off. Another company. I don't know how this was going to stay in business. Bed Bath & Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. That is an ugly chart. Missed on top and bottom line. $3.01 billion expected. They came in at $2.9 billion. Earnings per share, 67 cents is what they posted. They were missing expectations of 95 cents. And now, wow, down to $22.10 as of Friday's close.
Is it too offensive to say Bed Bath & Beyond profitability?
Oh, no. Well, they were trading back in January of 15 at 79.64. Let's just call it 80, and now they're almost at 20. So they're going to be cut 3/4. That's a quarter of what it was trading nearly for in under 2 years. Not looking to touch that stock. Any crude update, Bob?
Well, yes. Crude oil refinery runs jumped up above 83%. So that was one of the things that I was looking for, is when the actual people speak very loosely about this stuff, and they go, well, refineries are coming back online, when they're not actually looking as to whether they're coming back online or not. So, for example, Exxon's Baytown refinery is not running at full capacity. It's back online, but it's not running at full capacity. Valero's main refinery caught fire. And that was something that we talked about was a risk when you start up refineries. I mean, you're working with fairly flammable materials at a refinery. So when you start repairing and fixing these things, sparks fly and there are fires. And Valero's refinery caught fire. Motiva's Port Arthur refinery is up and running, but not. And that's the largest one. That's the largest U.S. refinery. And that one is not running at full capacity. So we got the numbers last week, the week before last, and they were 77.7%. Now they're 83 and change. So that's better. But basically 15 of 20 refineries are running of the 20 that had to shut, and a decent amount of them, specifically the ones I just mentioned, are not running at full capacity. So what this means is, and what you're not hearing a lot of people talk about, is that when they get back to full capacity, they're going to have a lot of refined fuel storage to make up, refined fuel inventory to make up. Crude oil still at new time highs for the amount of crude oil in storage, but gasoline is now at more average levels. Refined products are now down to kind of average levels. So there's disconnect there. So it's likely that the refineries, even though we're going into the lower demand season from a U.S. perspective, it's likely that the refineries, when they get back up to 95%, continue to pump at like 95%, whereas normally they would slow down a little bit to try and match those inventories back up with what the crude inventories are. So that's probably going to cause a rally in crude. We had nothing but bearish news this week other than the refinery number, and we're still above $50 in WTI. Lastly, the spread between Brent and WTI has widened out enough to make WTI imports, or exports rather, from us out desirable. When you export U.S. crude, or it's true for any country, you have to add in the shipping costs. And when Brent is closer to where WTI is, the shipping costs aren't worth it. So the people in that region, meaning Europe and Asia and all that, will go for Brent because it's cheaper to ship there. So the overall cost is cheaper. Right now, the rally in Brent, because of the problems here, people were going to Brent because you couldn't ship out of the Gulf with the hurricanes going on. Brent rallied, but WTI did not. And the spread is now such where WTI demand is pretty strong. So we're going to see imports jump, and that's going to pull crude out of inventories as well. So I think most everything is setting up for bullishness. I don't know what the chart looks like. I haven't looked at the chart in a couple of days, but I think from a fundamental perspective, everything is setting up to be underlying bullish.
Well, it did close above one of my key levels. Now it's stuck at a significant level of right around 50.75. So, and I was looking for it to go to 51.50 first, and then 52.29. So, but it's interesting. On every dip, it keeps just snapping back.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think we're in buy the dip mode. We're in risk on mode on crude oil. Risk on.
Gone. Not Exxon, but risk on.
Risk on. Gotta hate when those guys do that with stocks.
Not wax off, but wax on, Miyagi.
It's so annoying. They'll say, so what's going on down on the trading floor? Well, we're in risk on mode, meaning we're up. Well, we're in risk off mode, meaning we're down.
Yeah.
Idiots.
So last week we talked about the hack of what was it? Equifax? Which company was
Equifax.
it? Equifax.
We do have to get back to that after this one little piece. I have some questions.
Back to what?
Equifax, they say that, I saw in the news, probably fake news, but that everybody should freeze all their credit accounts. And if you need to get a car loan, you then have to unfreeze your credit accounts. And the guy said, well, it's a big pain in the butt, but if you don't do it, then you're totally at risk. Now, is that smart talk or dumb talk?
Well, you can freeze it. It just, you have to jump through the hoops. And if you freeze it, you have to freeze it all three credit bureaus separately. And there's different fees per whatever state you're in. Where we are in Illinois, it costs you $10 every time you freeze it and unfreeze it per credit bureau. And I think Equifax is waiving the fee to freeze it, not to unfreeze it, but to freeze it. But Experian and TransUnion aren't waiving their fee. So, like, if you were going to freeze those other two, you'd have to pay $20. And then if you wanted to go get credit approval for everything, you have to call them up, pay the $10 each, unfreeze it, and then it could take up to 5 days. So you have to know, like, you just can't walk into a car dealership and go, oh, wait, I forgot to unfreeze my thing. I was going to buy a car, because it could take up to 5 days. So you sort of have to plan stuff out, else you can't get approval for anything, or you can't. I think this is actually going to hit store, where you get people walk into stores and decide, you get the free gift or everything with signing up for their new card, like on the spot. I think because a lot of people are going to end up freezing their accounts, which means you can't sign up for anything on the spot anymore. So it will hit a lot of these retailer credit cards because of this hack. That's interesting. So once your account's frozen, nobody can open credit in it, so you're safe in that way, but you can't open credit in it either, easily.
They're just not talking about it on the news. I've only seen that once.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And I think we're going to see a lot more stuff come out. Again, it falls in there's never just one cockroach category. So I don't think that long-term Equifax will remain in business as it is now. I think something's going to happen, but that's just my own personal thought. Now, in the hacking hangout corner, now we have to have a hacking hangout corner. Did you see this? The SEC officials only recently learned of their 2016 company database hack, so a lot of the top SEC officials have turned over, and they were just notified that there was a hack of their, what database was that? Oh, I forgot the database name. It's the one where all the filings go in. Are you still there, Bob?
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find, I forgot what the name of that database hack. I need to search. What happened to my Edgar, I believe it is. Yeah, Edgar. Yeah, there's SEC reveals that the 2016 hack may have been used for illegal trades. Their Edgar database was hacked, but they didn't even let the new top people in charge know until very recently. Hackers got into the database. So a lot of the stuff gets posted just publicly, so that's not what's key, but some things have to be reviewed, and their disclosure documents and everything else, and they have to be reviewed by the SEC before they're made public. And if hackers get a hold of that early, they can make trades off of it because there's specific disclosures that can affect the stock price. So we're just getting hacks all over the place.
Yes, we are. It's really the new. It's the only problem that bothers me, honestly. Of all the things going on, it's like North Korea doesn't bother me. These things bother me.
Yeah, people should stop buying yachts and start buying firewalls.
Right.
Yeah, so this is actually pretty concerning and it's also concerning that these hacks come out long time after they've happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They just put off announcing it. I don't know why they do that. I don't know if they're trying to figure out some way to deal with it without making it public. But that's the first thing you should do is go public with it. So that
I think the first thing you should do is lock down the stuff. So because once you go public with it, it'll attract other hackers. But then I don't think sitting on it for a very long time is a good strategy.
I just assumed that was the first step. I mean, just like, the next step is always you should go public with, let people know there are risk.
Yep.
I mean, I assume the step is you lock down.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to keep going through like hacking corner, it seems. Nothing in going to zero or fraud corner, although that's a great tie-in with hacking corner and Equifax. We have electric and self-driving cars segment. We talked about the new Porsche.
Yeah.
Now Porsche is also bringing its ultra-fast charging stations to the U.S., especially for the Mission E. They're going to use the 800-volt charging technology. They're looking at Atlanta at their headquarters for the first one, and this is the charging technology that can take the battery pack to 80% charge in 15 minutes. So they're building 6 stations for an estimated cost of $96,800. And they're going to start deploying their charging network in the country.
Is that each?
I think that's 6 for $96,000. So
okay.
What's that, about $15,000 each, just over that?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have, on people turning on Tesla. California Democrats target Tesla. They're now trying to get, in order for you to get the be available for the $2,500 rebate in electric vehicles, you essentially have to have a union shop. So you can't be non-unionized. And Tesla's non-unionized.
Ugh.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess Elon didn't donate enough to the Democrats in California because
what does California want?
Everything.
Well, they obviously they
no
were
gas, no electricity, no public transportation, no free speech. What's going on with that state?
and
They just
well, it's going to affect it one way or another because if they go unionize, their costs are going to of production are going to go up.
they want everything from you.
Thank you, Bob.
They just want everything.
Yep.
Ugh.
So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds with the union and Tesla in California. And by the way, Tesla, for the third time in a couple years, has switched their chip for their self-driving technology. First, they got rid of Mobileye. Then they were using NVIDIA. Now they got rid of NVIDIA and switched to AMD.
Wow. I'm an AMD fan, so I'm a Radeon AMD fan, so I'm all good with that. But wow, that's a big switch.
Well, what's interesting to me is because they've promised this self-driving technology that you could buy, and now they have potentially 3 chipsets in different cars. So, I mean, that's a development nightmare then, because you actually essentially have to develop the same technology and make sure it's compatible with 3 different chipsets, or you have to retrofit the other older cars of people who bought the self-driving capability, which has still not been released fully to where they said it would be. You have to retrofit all those cars with the new boards and chips, all those cars with the new boards and chips.
Well, if they read it in OpenCL, that's cross-platform. So
There's still going to be stuff with the whole, you have to do, I mean, this is testing that has to go for self-driving technology. You have to make sure everything's completely buttoned down and you're dealing with 3 different chipsets and revisions of those chips.
I kind of want the FAA to get involved in all this. They kind of know how to do triple redundancy pretty well.
Well, that's what's interesting also with the Tesla stuff, because a lot of their systems aren't redundant, and they've promised this self-driving technology that they can deliver with not everything being redundant. So it's going to be interesting once we do get legislation. If it's legislated that there needs to have this level of redundancy, then there will be retrofits required. Interesting things to watch with Tesla. Oh, they're also discontinuing their rear-wheel drive Model S next week. That's the one that was $69,500. So that's no longer going to be available. I think they're trying, because I think most of their Model 3s are going to initially sell at like in the $50,000 range. So they're trying to make a bigger gap between their Model S's and their Model 3s, because the Model 3s, we all know, really aren't going to sell that many for $35,000. That was another thing. So if you want a Model S rear-wheel drive, the cheap version, you could buy them off the lots if they're already there, but you have until the 24th to order them online.
The rear-wheel drive is dangerous, in my opinion. It's got too much torque.
Does it?
Finally,
I think so.
Solar City has to pay $29.5 million to resolve U.S. government allegations that it has violated federal laws by submitting inflated claims to the federal government for solar rebates and such.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're getting fined by the government. They've been said they were fraudulently putting through inflated rebate requests.
Does their whole factory work on solar power? Do we know that?
Well, they're not even their superchargers. They have diesel generators doing. They have their solar panels up, but they don't provide enough energy. No, they don't. They can't produce everything on solar power. It's a big smoke and mirrors thing. But
It really is.
I think there's going to be. This is another instance. I'm calling it now. There's not because I hate their accounting, and Tesla absorbed Solar City for a Musk family bailout, but there's never one cockroach, especially with fraud and accounting stuff. I think this is going to be very telling.
What's a dotard?
It's not Goddard, which is, one of the founders of NASA and a rocket man.
I don't know what a dotard is.
It's an actual term.
Oh, yeah, what is it?
Googled it?
No.
It is an old person with impaired intellect, one in his or her dotage. Which, I'm sorry, it's the back and forth is just hysterical. He calls him a rocket man, which I don't think two leaders, both who have nukes, should be name calling each other things. But I actually thought I'm living in like a South Park episode. I actually think
the best part about it is both of their hair.
Cryptocurrency segment. If you go to Pirate Bay, because you're going to Pirate Bay, Pirate Bay now borrows your CPU to mine virtual coins. Visitors to Pirate Bay have discovered JavaScript code in the website that borrows your processor for the sake of mining Monero digital coins.
What's Pirate Bay?
I don't know. What is it, Mike? I've never heard of that.
It's a website where you can go get stuff pirated. Software, music, videos.
Like the TV show The Orville?
Yes, like the Orville. If you had to get a pirated copy of the Orville, you could go to Pirate Bay. But now you're going to actually, your processor is going to help them make money. So I thought that was sort of interesting. Hey, we're monitoring we've talked about Monero being like the completely anonymous one, even more anonymous than Bitcoin. So that's the one they've gravitated to.
How is this any different than SETI?
What do you mean, SETI?
SETI would take over your computer and mine the data and try to find aliens in future galaxies.
Well, they're just doing it to make money now because they're not care about the aliens. They just care about Monero. And we had major China widens their Bitcoin crackdown beyond commercial trading. They have decided on a comprehensive ban on channels for the buying or selling of virtual currency in China that goes beyond the plans to shut commercial Bitcoin exchanges. People familiar with the matter. So we saw the Bitcoin exchanges are already shutting down. Now I think they're going to just try to outright ban this, at least for a while. So that, and I just saw, huh?
What's the end game there?
I think they actually have issues with the yuan and their banking stuff, and they're trying to prevent more outflow of capital, and a lot of capital was moving out through these cryptocurrencies.
There is a huge black market in China. I mean, it's huge. So it's interesting to me if people are starting to transact in the cryptos, if that's why they targeted it. That seems to me to be correct, Mike, because they're one of the few industrialized nations that has a real black market.
Well, also, all the dams around China, if you look at them, you can find all this on the internet with a search. There are these 5-6-story buildings right next to these power-generating dams, and they're all full of computers.
Oh yeah, that's where they get it. That's why there's some of the biggest miners in the company in the world, because of the electricity is cheap enough that you can mine for a massive profit.
And it all looks like Blade Runner. It's not clean, that's for sure.
That was in the crypto segment. Let me just check into where we are trading. Let's see. Let's see where we are with Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin 37.23, so off its most recent highs when it got back above 4,000. Let me see. Let me look at the rotation zone on the daily chart. Boy, my internet is slow today.
There was some talk that Japan is going to take what China's leaving behind with Bitcoin.
Well, South Korea, you want to know who's made up the difference right now? South Korea. South Korea is huge into the cryptos now, and they've now bypassed, with the China crackdown, they've bypassed China with the, I don't know if they might be leading everything right now in terms of world transactions. I'd have to look that up. Bitcoin still has to get, before we're looking to be bullish again, about 39.30, because we're still against the weekly rotation zone. So I'm going to need a lot of input from you on our next segment, Bob. Bob?
Yes.
Are we boring you?
Yes.
Really? I thought you liked cryptocurrencies.
I do love Monero.
You love yourself some Monero?
I love myself some Monero. I like cryptocurrency that's most popular with the criminals. That's my favorite one.
According to JP Morgan, it's every one.
Yet they still allow their clients to trade in it. That's so funny. So I guess they should fire all their clients too. Because
that sounded like such a spoiled brat when he said that stuff. Just sounded
that's what's so ironic. They actually support their clients trading in it, especially overseas. But why would you do that if it's a complete fraud? You're going to say, okay, you guys we're going to support you trading in something we believe is fraudulent, or is it just him that believes it's fraudulent?
It's just him, but it's funny that you say that. I mean, that's a great point, and it brings to light. It's like the whole Madoff thing, where they were saying that so many of the brokers could have caught Madoff but didn't. You know, it's just JP Morgan's way of saying, look, if something goes wrong, it's not our fault. We told you guys.
We got to get these segments in then, Bob, because we need to talk about U.S. economy, then currency and international markets, because a lot happened this week. But before we get to that, GDP Now forecast is down to 2.2%, and the Goldman is down to 1.5% Q3. This Q3 GDP on larger hurricane-related disruptions than we had assumed. We had a lot of Fed stuff this week. What'd they do?
Did you say what'd they do?
Yeah, what'd the Fed do this week? I know they left rates unchanged.
They had lunch. Yeah, they left rates unchanged, and they announced their balance sheet normalization plans, which consisted of the halting of reinvestment of $3 billion in mortgage backs and $4 billion in treasuries. Do I have that right, or is that flipped? I think it's $3 billion in mortgage backs. It's a total of $7 billion a month to start, and they're going to continue to let that roll off until they reach $20 billion and $30 billion, respectively, of each. And then they're going to halt at that level because they're increasing every month. Then they're going to halt at that level until the balance sheet is completely normalized. I'm not sure what normalized means in that case. It goes back to normal, I guess, is what it means. But left rates unchanged. And then they used a big portion of the Q&A and the speech to kind of convince the markets that rate hikes were not only still appropriate, but were coming. Gradual pace of rate hikes will continue, those types of lines. They also reduced their GDP expectations and their inflation expectations. They now don't have an expectation of 2% inflation until 2019. Janet Yellen called the fact that inflation is not turning up a mystery. She actually used the word mystery.
How's it a mystery?
She doesn't know why it hasn't turned up.
Does she shop at Amazon?
It's like an Agatha Christie novel.
The Fed Watch tool at CME Group went from no part of the curve having a 40% or better probability of a rate hike to this week jumping above. Let me see where that is as I'm speaking, but it jumped above 75% for a December rate hike. But still, then nothing else. I mean, nobody's pricing anything else in after a December rate hike. Let's see, CME Fed Watch tool. It was 75% on Thursday. There's no way that it dropped down. Anyway, 10-year note yields, jumped from about 2.22 to about 2.89 and then fell back a little bit. It's actually a pretty good size move on yields. The interesting thing is the Fed now has 2019, they had the overnight rate at about an average of about 2.8%, right? That's 50 basis points higher, 40 basis points higher than the 10-year note. So when you look at it that way, one of those has to move. You're not going to have 10-year note yields under the overnight rate. All right, right now it's at 71.4%, so it did fall back a little bit, that there's going to be a rate hike in December. There's a 70% chance that rate hike is going to take place in January and not in, I'm sorry, that's wrong. 70% chance the rates will still be there in January. And then again, nowhere in the curve is there any more rate hikes for the most part. The highest probability is August of 2018 is a 44% chance that there'll be another rate hike. Or I'm sorry, 33.5% chance that there'll be another rate hike in addition to the December one.
They came out and said there's going to be 3 more in 2018.
Yeah, that's what they're predicting at this point. But again, that like 2019, that puts the Fed funds rate somewhere around 2.5%. So higher than the 10-year note. For those of you that don't know, the Fed funds rate is an overnight interest rate. So it's what you get paid on overnight money. So there's no way the 10-year note stays where it is if that's actually the course that the Fed is taking. Just no chance of it. So one of those two has to change. Either we're not going to have 2.5% Fed funds rate next year, or rather in 2019, or the 10-year note's going to be somewhere around 3.5%, 4%.
Okay.
One of those has to move. So be careful if you're long 10-year notes.
Has to, huh?
Any bonds, actually.
Huh. Well, there you have it, straight from Bob Iacchino's mouth. What else? Oh, just the numbers. There was not a lot of important numbers, but U.S. manufacturing PMI came in at 53, expectations of 53, up a little from last at 52.8. Services PMI was down 55.1, expectations of 55.9, and last of 56.
Yeah, it was a really weak economic data week. There just wasn't much to trade off of. Everything was about the Fed. And potential progress on tax cuts, which we didn't really get yet.
Where's my tax cut?
Oh, they're focused on the corporate tax cut right now.
I want my tax cut.
Still think they should be doing them together, but whatever.
Does that mean I'm not getting a tax cut?
You are not, Mike.
Oh, crap. Why? I want my tax cut. I want my $2. So what the international markets, Carney speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you agree. Did he have anything to say that was interesting?
Are you talking about after the Bank of England meeting?
Yes. Well, everything's fair game in the international segment.
There's no rules.
Yeah, there is no rules.
I don't. Carney has an issue, right? He does. He has a real big problem because the pound suffered so much after Brexit that they have inflation without necessarily having the strongest economy. They have the strongest inflation. They do have a decent economy. The UK's economy is doing better than the US's right now. So he's talking about limited gradual rate hikes. that they're going to be tightening. He's trying to jawbone the pound right now. He's trying to talk the pound up a little bit because the inflation is coming from the weak pound. So here's the trick bag that he's in. If he raises rates aggressively enough to affect the pound, he runs the risk of hurting the UK economy, which because of Brexit, he does not want to do. Nobody wants him to do that. But the inflation that's coming in is very real. They had a 2.9 print recently. So it's very, very real. So he's right now trying to talk the currency into a little bit of an uptrend. It's not working yet, but not in any big way. It did rebound. But that's what he's trying to do. And it's hard. It's difficult to do that because the market's onto that kind of thing. So again, he's talking about there being rate hikes, talking about them being limited and gradual in order to not spook the equity markets in the UK. But that's his issue. I mean, the pound's got problems.
What did Theresa May say?
Theresa May wants a 2-year transition once Brexit starts. So I didn't see her speech this weekend. Did she give that, or is that tomorrow?
No. Well, she gave a speech. What was it? Yes. Yeah, it was around 2 years. She didn't really talk about any early exit or anything else.
Yeah. She talked about a 2-year transition. She wants that approval. She's if the UK is going to Brexit, they need to Brexit. I mean, why would you leave the union but stay in the union? You know, I mean, like they're talking about adopting the EU laws as their laws and then transitioning out of those. Like if you vote for a Brexit, but then you basically duplicate the European Union, then you Brexit without getting the advantages of Brexit. I mean, some of the disadvantages of being in the EU are the EU rules, and then you're going to adopt the EU rules. It's just silliness.
Everything's silly now.
I mean, they voted to exit. This whole thing where there's a negotiation, it's like, what are you talking about? We're leaving. That's it. But they're trying to do it in a peaceful way. Just go out through the WTO and negotiate a trade deal, just like everybody else does. This whole thing of negotiating with the EU just seems silly to me.
Yeah. Yep. Have you seen the chart of the Swiss National Bank?
No, I haven't.
Take a look in the show notes.
Let's see, Swiss National Bank. Whoa.
Yeah. And then I found this got tweeted out on look at the one below that.
Jesus. What got tweeted out?
Look at the chart below that one.
Dear God.
No, but I guess printing Swiss francs and buying the spoos with the proceeds is a good trade. So the Swiss National Bank's gone vertical. I mean,
yeah,
it almost looked like Bitcoin did for a while. It's now through the 3,000 franc share barrier, hitting an intraday high of 43.24. Like 6 months ago, it was under 2,000. So that I don't know what's going on with the Swiss National Bank, but that's very interesting chart because it's a lot of the like you can't publicly trade our Federal Reserve, but you can publicly trade the Swiss National Bank. I think. Can you do one Japan?
No.
Which other ones?
Japan owns all the stock that you could trade on themselves.
Is that insider trading in Japan?
What's the percentage up to? 75% or something?
Yeah, they own 75% of all the ETFs.
They just become a communist country.
Well, and it was funny is because you buy the ETFs, and the ETFs then have to invest in the underlying stocks that they are in their ETFs. So essentially, they're just buying their whole market.
Called nationalization.
Yep. So I don't think that's going to end well, personally.
Oh, it is not.
That's all I have on international. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
So, do you have a why?
Today's edition of The What and the Why is brought to you by Motive Wave Software. Motive Wave Software is a well-established developer of easy-to-use, full-featured charting, analysis, and trading software built for the individual trader. Motive Wave offers the best charting tools used by the pros, such as Elliott Wave, Fibonacci, Gartley, Gannon ratio analysis, but it's presented in a very easy-to-use way. Motive Wave has a product to fit any budget and any trading style, and one of the very best features, it's available on Windows and Mac. So go to pathtradingpartners.com right now to get your 14-day free trial, and then visit them at motivewave.com.
The Fed has to raise rates. Just so everybody knows, one of the things that came out of the FOMC meeting in the Q&A, Steve Leisman asked, he said, so this is going to be, Steve Leisman from CNBC, he said, so this is going to be the path that the FOMC is going to take in terms of balance sheet normalization, shrinking the balance sheet. And everybody should be aware they are not selling securities from their balance sheet. Okay, I heard another guy say that. And, you know, the Fed is now doing what they call quantitative tightening by selling assets off their balance sheet. They're not selling assets. Let's make that clear. They're taking the assets that expire. When an asset matures or expires, you get cash in exchange for the value of that asset. And that cash used to be invested back into similar securities by the Fed, which meant that their balance sheet basically continued to grow because they had the ones continue to stay the same level. Sometimes it grew because they would assets would mature at a profit. So when those assets matured at a profit, they would then take all of that money and buy more of the same asset, but because they had a profit, they were buying more of them. So the balance sheet was actually growing, even though they weren't technically adding anything. But anyway, so Steve Leisman said, is there a chance that if economic conditions turn, that you'll stop balance sheet normalization? And Janet Yellen tried her best not to answer with the word no, but she basically said no, there's no chance that they're going to stop with balance sheet normalization. She talked around it quite a bit. Two monetary policy tools, and one of them has been used for the first time in the economic crisis, in the credit crisis. One of them is interest rates that we all know about, and then the other one is quantitative easing. And they don't want to use quantitative easing ever again, basically. She said the policy tool that they prefer to use is the interest rate levels. So if you extrapolate that out, you say, okay, that's what they want to use. So then what happens if we do go into a recession? Well, they'd have to lower rates. And you can't lower rates from 1% any lower than 1%. I mean, I guess you could go negative, but theoretically you could go negative. The Fed they're desperately trying to raise rates because they want room if something happens. So for everybody who's saying that the Fed shouldn't raise rates, the economy's not ready, they have to. They don't have any choice because right now they just don't have enough room to respond to any sort of financial crisis or any sort of slowing down of the economy with rates basically at 1%. They just don't have any room. So again, you extrapolate that out and you say that all interest rates have to rise. They don't have to rise at the same pace, but from the overnight rate all the way out to the 30-year bond, interest rates are going to rise now. That's the new thing that they're going to be doing. We'll see what happens. Geopolitical tensions can change that. But if all else stays the same, the Fed has to raise rates. That's my why.
That was a very impressive why.
Thank you, Mike.
Don't ask me why I said that.
What else were you going to say? Speaking of what?
Well, NASDAQ's actually trading at very interesting areas that I'm going to be watching for. Right now, we're trading at the top of the rotation zone on the weekly. And on the daily, we're below the rotation zone and just hovering above the 50-day exponential moving average. So, and we have a key long-term trend line coming in. Everything is coming in just slightly below 5,900, so about 5,880. So I'm going to be watching for a key close below that. This has sort of been, we've been in congestion and the moving averages has been sneaking up and now they're all at a critical level. So if we get a close below that 5,880, we could see a much bigger pullback in the NASDAQ, in the markets. It's sort of crept up on everybody, though.
Do we think stocks are finally going to roll over?
I wouldn't know that until we get a close, but it's looking very toppy.
Okay.
I'm waiting for confirmation, of course, like we always do, technical pattern, but it is looking very, very toppy. It looks like there are disbursements going on.
Breaking news, we had a new record VIX short. Oh, hang on. I deleted that piece of breaking news. Here it is. Hold on. Checking. Breaking news. Hold on. Hold the phone. Before we end this show, recently a potential to make a bad situation worse. VIX ETP providers need to buy around 150 million in Vega, which is 50% of the average daily first, second, and third VIX futures volume over the next 2 months to cover this short. Let's see. Before ending this, Vega buys at a record high is almost double. So the VIX short positions, according to Deutsche Bank, are almost double the old record. Tuesday, the net shorts increased from 47,000 short contracts to 171,000, which is a new record.
Wow. I'm predicting that's not going to end well.
Yeah, I mean, you're short the VIX at 10 at a record level. Wow.
You're short actually the VIX like around 950 at this point.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, we're not that far from all new time lows.
Those damn ultimate new time lows.
All new time lows could happen. And whenever we get down to this level, you know, at some point there is that shock. It's just when it happens.
Yep.
But I would not be short the VIX down here. You know, you want to, if you're looking to go short it on these pops to 15 to 16, you might want to take a shot at short the VIX, but not down at 959.
Wow.
I'm sensing that's just dangerous. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. That's our tip of the week. Do not short the VIX at 959.
Do not. Anyway, thanks everybody. I am Bob Icino. I got to get going, boys.
And I'm Mike Arnold.
Talk to you guys next week.